Hello everyone and welcome to the Gunpla Network. I'm the Spicer and today's unboxing of the Master Grade Vercob ball is brought to you by Canadian Gundam. Canadian Gundam is your one-stop shop for all your Gunpla and Plamo needs here in North America. When you're perusing Canadian Gundam's stock and placing your order, don't forget to use the promo code Gunpla Network for 10% off. And as the box spins around here, we're treated to the traditional Master Grade Vercob box. Mostly white with no background to speak of, and just the item, the model kit itself, and all of its associated information. So if you're unfamiliar with the ball, this comes to us from the Universal Century timeline and is, for most intent and purpose, the predecessor to the GM. The ball was kind of a haphazard slapdash way of combating the Zaku in Zaku 2 in space, as the Federation didn't have mobile suits for a good portion of the one-year war. Now, as you can imagine, the ball is largely cannon fodder and fairly useless unless it's in the hands of one Shiro Amada, the coolest pilot to ever pilot a ball. Now, the ball itself is pretty interesting, as Bandai kind of went at this and thought, okay, well, it's not going to have a lot of articulation. We need to take other steps in order to ensure that it's going to look good on a display. And you can see that on part of the front of this box where you see the inner frame, so you can expose that if you would like, and we'll take a look at what that actually looks like on a runner in a moment, but it is nice that they had that forethought. Now, as we flip the box over to its actual flat side to take a look, we're treated to a little bit more of the inner details. So on one side, it's going to show you the stand, the little extra pilots or mechanics it comes with, the internal frame, the cockpit opening, the claw mechanisms, pretty cool. You get some of the art that's on the front, on the top and the bottom. And then, of course, on the other side, you just get a nice picture of the ball. And that's pretty much it. The Vercob boxes are very minimalist, and they actually look really good. I actually really like these boxes in comparison. I usually don't do anything with my boxes. I usually just end up throwing them away or using them for storage. So it's kind of nice to have something that's really clean looking. And it does its job. It shows off the gimmicks and the visuals of the ball. Now, in terms of the runner, the A plate here is going to be kind of the most diverse, where it's going to have some clear, some white, some gray, and then some of the red. It's pretty cool. It looks good. It's nice to see some of that color separation like you'd get with the real grades, with kind of like a gray or a bone white and some more pristine whites. You'll also have the B plate, which is going to be the inner frame, and this is kind of where I want to slow things down for a moment, because the inner frame is really one of the biggest selling points to this kit. If you've ever wanted to have a mobile suit kind of half built on one side where you see all the inner components, this is the equivalent of that for the ball. It gives you all of that ability inside, and as we actually take a more detailed look here, you can see just all the little etching and all the little detail that Bandai put in when printing this. And it's actually kind of mind-blowing, honestly. It's visually so nice and neat. And if you just a little bit of silver dry brushing, or some of the chrome paint pen, or just little things, even like, I'm pretty sure some panel lining marker would at least have a little pop, maybe not too much, but it might help differentiate some things. It's just really nice to look and see what that main ball component's going to be made up of, and all the different textures and designs and everything that goes apart in there. And you can even see some of the parts around it are going to incorporate a layering mechanic as well. So if you're not really sold on the outer part of the ball, the inner part is really where you're going to get all that detail, and that's kind of that forethought that Bandai had of thinking, this isn't going to be able to get in any dynamic poses, it's a ball. But what we can do is provide people a way to have it displayed where it can at least be on a similar level in terms of mechanical detail to some other master grades, like from its era, the GM, the Zaku, or the RX-78-2. Now as we move on, the C plate is in a gray. The lighting here does make it look much darker than it is. It's a pretty light gray. This is largely going to make up the cannon on the top, and as you can see, it's got the pilot and the two mechanics that are on the outside in the promotional images from the box. Then the ABS plate here, which is going to be all light gray. I think it's a slightly different shade of gray, but it's pretty close to the one we just got. So not too much color variation, but it is nice to see some subtle differences here and there. We get the E plate, which is going to make up the base, and that is one really interesting thing here. Bandai didn't scrimp out and go with like a traditional base and just found a way to put the ball on it. It has its own dedicated like seat or like base. It's a weird, I don't know how exactly to phrase it, but you have some scaffolding looking stuff there, and that's really neat. I always love when Bandai throws in some kind of unique stand gimmick. In this, while it isn't necessarily the most visually impressive thing, looks like something a ball would sit on. It's something that you would assume you would see in the manga or the animation of, oh cool, the ball doesn't have legs, it can't stand up. They would have to set it on something if they were going to have any kind of gravity or just a way to store it without just strapping it to the side of something. Then we have some rubbery parts that are going to largely make up the arm pieces kind of right at the base of the ball. Then we have the metal rod and the bendable red wire that are going to make up kind of the gimmicky cool parts of the arm. The little metal rods, I believe, go into a piston mechanism, and then the red cables will kind of go through the arm, and you see them a little bit on the claw portion. So it is pretty cool that they actually include real bendable wire into metal rods. And then we have, if I'm correct, some wet transfer decals. They may be dry transfer, but I'm almost positive these are water slides. I'm almost positive. And I guess we'll find out when I build it, but I'm pretty sure if they are dry transfer, I'd be so much more happy. But if they're water slide, they'll still at least look good if nothing else. And then we have the manual, and the manual, much like the box, is very minimalist. It looks almost identical, and it's a manual. It looks good. That's pretty much all I can say. If you display these and you like the minimalist style of the Verka, it's going to blend in pretty well, and it's going to give you a pretty different picture than most of your traditional mobile suits. And lastly, what are my thoughts going into this build? Well, as we see, there's not a lot going on, so it's going to be pretty straightforward. But something that has me really interested is how am I going to be able to bring out some of that mechanical detail? And am I going to leave certain pieces off? How am I going to work that? And I really don't know at this point. I think I want to build it, and while I'm building it, detail some of that the inner pieces, have it all built, put on the water slides or the dry transfers, and then kind of see how I feel. Shoot the review, have both shown, and in the review I'll hopefully have figured out how I'm going to display it, but I do have to say I'm actually really excited. After mostly building real grades for the last month or so, I'm really excited to get into this. This is going to be really straightforward, pretty simple, but different. And I think that's something that we all need every once in a while as a kit to kind of break the monotony of a humanoid Gundam that's pretty much the same, pretty much inner frame you're getting almost across the board. So I'm really excited. It is going to be something that's going to stand out on the shelf, so I'm excited to see how I'm going to try to fit that in the shelf as well. But overall, I am looking forward to it, and hopefully I don't disappoint. If you guys have any comments about the boxing or the pieces, put them in the comments down below. If you've built it, let us know what you thought, and of course, as always friends, I've been the Spicer for the Gunpla Network. Keep on building.